Hello, everybody. I was gonna take a break tonight, but just too much cool stuff happened around the same time regarding to this topic, and I decided it was time to put together, a video specifically about the fact that Antifa is really taking a lot of big L's right now. In that the left is turning on them more and more every day. I'm even finally talking to anarcho-communists who are sick of their shit because they recognize that perhaps beating people up in the streets and destroying their property is not the best way to sell the notion that we don't need police and that we don't need the state. But with that aside, let's get into this. This Antifa fellow here is now in full-on damage control, this Vishal Singh guy. And the reason why is because people have noticed that Antifa is attacking journalists, which is why he's linking this. And he did a whole series specifically trying to give statistics that supposedly, the far-right extremists are the ones who are attacking journalists exclusively. When I argued with him a bit about it a little bit, he tried to say that, well, like 1,000% more are attacked by the right wing, etc. He won't, and he tried to just claim that, it wasn't happening in the other direction, but that's so easy to prove right now. Like a 10-second clip from the We Spa protests on July 3rd will show you, like back-to-back, them attacking two journalists. But this is an act of desperation, which is why they're sharing this Guardian article that for some reason doesn't talk about any of the attacks that Antifa has carried out on journalists recently. And the reason why they're doing this whole optics show is because things are actually starting to look really bad for them. Matt Taibbi, who's a well-known leftist journalist, finally put out something to that degree. Enough is enough. Antifa attacks reporter in Portland. Antifa's influence may be exaggerated, but it's not a mythical snuffleupagus either, as they showed in attacking reporter Marani Stayab from our partner News to Share this past weekend. I don't know if I pronounced her name right, but in any case, this was part of that, and was honestly probably one of the only moments that Portland Antifa looked tough, because the rest of the time they got the shit beat out of them by the Proud Boys. That's another one of the elements here, is that Antifa's been getting their asses kicked now on a regular basis in Los Angeles and in Portland. And they attacked this journalist after, there was this, let me see, actually, let's just go ahead and play it.
Fucking smash all of your cameras and your phone. Fuck you. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out, Kata. You fucking endangered people by flying to fucking Colombia and endangering everyone and by opening them up to COVID. You will.
You talk to everybody who flew to Florida, bud.
Really so funny.
Get the fuck off! You're doing nothing!
What the fuck?
Out! Go! How many times are we gonna fucking tell you?
Just fuck off! Get the fuck out of here! We don't want to harm her!
We're not.
Let's just let her get it for
Me and my friends are
You have everything?
Get the fuck out of here!
Fucking fuckers! Fucking ancient! Die, you motherfuckers!
You're a fucking bitch!
I gotta wait.
You guys know a medic?
Can you rinse her mouth out?
Is there a medic in the crowd?
Is there a medic?
So, this is why Antifa is in full defense mode, trying to pretend and obfuscate from the fact that they are the ones who frequently attack journalists. And I'm not saying the right never does it, but, I've asked them all, can you give me some videos of them doing that? Because this picture here is actually from the guy, Rooftop Korean, and the journalist in question, he even tried to tell her to get out of the way, because they were having a fight. And she basically made her way into the melee, and she ended up getting hit. Now, I'm going to be clear, I don't approve of any journalist being attacked, but we're kind of in this situation now where each side seems to have the journalists that they want, which are basically, at that point, not journalists, just more or less just propaganda mouthpieces, like Mr. Vishal. So, that's why they're doing this, and that's why he's made other posts to this effect, like he has this pretty graph where he's trying to, point out that supposedly one side is doing it more, and it's only because they know that they've been exposed doing it recently, so they're trying to distract away from the point. So there's also this little brief clip of just showing two of them attacking journalists at the We Spa that I found easily, because it's been happening a lot lately. We'll look at that now.
you keep walking. Keep walking. Get the fuck out. Fuck you. Get the fuck out now. No safe space for chuds. Get the fuck out. You people don't fucking belong here. Get the fuck out of the neighborhood. Sorry, I'm sorry. Get his shit. Keep going. Keep pushing. Push. Push, team. Push.
Go! Get the fuck out of here! You don't want to get your ass kicked? Get the fuck out of here! Get out! Get the fuck out! Get the fuck out! Get the camera! Get the camera! Get the fuck out!
Get the fuck out!
No one racist!
Now, I used that clip in arguments here on Twitter because people just kept saying, give me proof, because they're pretending that Antifa doesn't attack journalists. The funny thing is some of the journalists that they attacked at the WeSpa really didn't even have anything to do with the right wing before that. They're just attacking anybody who films them as not them, because they want to be able to do nonsense like this. But again, Antifa's taken the L's big time, because to turn leftist journalists against them, which is what's happening, and there are more articles coming out like this all the time. Antifa's losing support. People have just that's what the state of this article was just that, he used to think that they weren't a big deal, but now they're attacking people and it's enough is enough, So, this is why it's clear to me that whoever's running Antifa, basically influencing all of this shit, whether it's Mark Bray or whoever, is a fucking idiot or intentionally trying to sabotage the left. Because that's really all they've done. Any good work that was done by Bernie Sanders as far as trying to get people to, think more, about issues that are normally on the left, like Medicare for all and all that, well, that's all been stripped away because now the face of the left is, people attacking skinny little female journalists. And that's the new face of the left. Good job, guys! Because you see, the community doesn't support you because what you're doing is wrong. That's the whole thing. And it's funny is during the course of these protests, when you were getting your asses kicked in Portland and in LA, and I exposed this in earlier videos, you were basically acting like you were defending the community from fascism, but you're not defending anybody other than just the people in your own little private bubbles. So here's the next L. The guy at the WeSpa that they claimed, of course, was a hoax. Is finally been arrested. Indecent exposure charges filed against trans woman over LA spa incident that prompted protests. So prosecutors filed multiple counts of indecent exposure this week against a transgender woman whose alleged conduct was at the center of a viral video that sparked a pair of violent protests outside a spa in Westlake this summer, according to court records. A person with knowledge of the investigation, Darren A.G. Merriger, was charged Monday with 5 counts of indecent exposure relating to an incident that took place July 24th, according to court records. The listed violation date is the same day that the viral video emerged, alleging a customer had exposed their penis in front of people inside the WeSpa. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A Los Angeles Police Department spokesperson said a news release would be issued soon and did not immediately respond to other questions. At least one of the counts against Merger involves allegations lobbed in relation to behavior at the WeSpa, according to a person with knowledge of the case who spoke on conditions of anonymity in order to discuss the matter candidly. The counts relate to alleged crimes committed on June 23rd and 24th, the person said. It's also being reported that this person is a level 1 sex offender. So, now, it hasn't been confirmed, but allegedly some of the women in question said that he was partially erect when he was exposing himself. And I've read another article about this topic. This guy apparently has a long history of getting in trouble for this. So, that's where we're at. If you're a pre-op trans person, you probably shouldn't be exposing yourself to kids and girls without consent. They actually talked to the New Yorker. I'm not sorry, not the New Yorker, the New York Post about this. But I don't usually use the New York Post because they usually has kind of they're one of the more biased reporting agencies. But they did talk to him, and he of course denies all charges and says that if I identify as a woman, I have a right to all of the female spaces. So you can check that out for yourself. But again, I don't usually use the New York Post because they're right leaning. Because, I am a leftist, and obviously I would prefer not to use, Fox or any of them, unless they have, like, raw footage, in which case I'll just play the footage and you can make your own decision. But in any case, this definitely kind of, puts egg in the face of LA Antifa, who claim that this didn't happen. They also claim that the person in question was just innocent, and it turns out that they're a level 1 sex offender and have a criminal record. So, in any case, moving on. Another arrest. One arrested in the stabbing at the anti-vaccine protest outside LA City Hall. That's right. The blonde-haired kid who stabbed somebody in the chest got arrested. One person was arrested Wednesday in connection with last month's stabbing at a protest against vaccines outside Los Angeles City Hall. LAPD Chief Michael Moore announced on KTLA. Officers arrested 30-year-old Eric Cohen of Long Beach in connection with the stabbing that took place on August 14th after a fight broke out during the anti-vaccine demonstration near 1st and Spring Streets, according to the Los Angeles Police Department. He's accused of using a knife or sharp objects to stab the victim once in the upper right chest area. Cohen was booked on suspicion of attempted murder and is being held on $1 million bail. Police previously released images of the assailant, now identified as Cohen, when he was being sought in connection with the City Hall attack. The person in the photos, who appeared to be holding a sharp object, was clad in black with his face and head covered with a hoodie and bandana. LAPD also has images of a second person who appears to have been stabbed during the melee, but the victim has yet to step forward, according to the chief. No victims or witnesses have come forward in that second attack, police said. Video from the protest shows punches being thrown as protesters and counter-protesters clashed. One man is later seen walking away with blood covering his face. Another man is also seen lying on the ground as LAPD officers provided aid. This anti-vax debate manifesting itself in protests and demonstrations and violence in other parts of the country as well, Moore said. In Los Angeles, we're not going to stand for it. Our arrest last night demonstrates that we'll put whatever resources we need to identify those responsible for such violence and bring them to the criminal justice system. The chief said he was thankful for members of the public who helped with identifying the suspect. Anonymous strikes again. Detectives are asking anyone who has additional information regarding Cohen to contact Detective Misri at 213-486-7362. So this picture here, this is the funny thing, is if you guys remember my previous video that Antifa was also trying to do some optics on this and claimed that this guy was stabbing his victim in self-defense from a skateboard because this, evil patriot guy was apparently trying to, bust people's heads with skateboards, which is something that LA Antifa has been doing a lot. And as you can see, the gentleman behind him, African-American individual dressed in black bloc, was also attacking people with skateboards that day. But when Chad Loader, the Antifa spinner, put up his picture, he of course cut this part off because he only wanted to make it look like there was one person with a skateboard and it was the patriot in question. Now I want to again and say, I wouldn't even put anybody on the right past attacking people with skateboards because Antifa does it all the time. And if you look at my previous video, I actually do a mini montage of LA Antifa in particular brutally beating people with skateboards, laying them out. So the whole thing was ridiculous, and ironically, I think Chad Loader actually deleted that tweet because it just looked ridiculous. It was just such obvious attempt at spin. The Twitterverse is really hilarious when it comes to this. But here's another major L. You guys tried to fucking kill somebody. And honestly, I hope he goes to jail because this is stupid. There was no reason to escalate that. You're concerned about people hitting you with skateboards, so you're going to try to stab them in the chest. Obviously, that's the next step, right? So, anyway, moving on to the next L. Remember that video I uploaded from the Project Veritas video of the high school nutcase school teacher who was literally saying, I have 180 days to turn them into revolutionaries? he got fired, or at least they've started the process. I actually sat back and watched the school board meeting, and one of the first things the superintendent did was announce that he was being put on administrative leave, because you have to do that first. Not administrative, but paid leave, and then they're now going to go forward with the rest of it to get him fired. And if you haven't watched that video about what he was doing, I would suggest that you do, because it was rather disturbing. But the rest of it, and I'm sure that's because Project Veritas was present and taking video, they may at least have a montage of some of the best parts, but the parents during public comment were ripping them to pieces. Because it's not enough just to fire this one guy. For one thing, if you remember from the video, he pointed out that there were other teachers doing exactly what he was doing. And the question that I had through the whole thing, which thankfully some of the parents also asked, was, how the hell did the principal not know that one of his teachers had an Antifa flag and a portrait of Mao? Like, Mao, the Russian, Mao, the communist leader in China who killed, hundreds of thousands of people. You just thought that'd be cool, huh? There's a teacher who has this going on in his classroom and you just somehow didn't know. And there were complaints about him and nobody did anything about it. So it's fairly certain that while they might have gotten one of the cancerous tumors in that school system, there's more to come. But the big thing that I think we have to take away from this situation is that this is going on in a lot more places than you think. And one of the things that the parents said during the courses of the public comment was that they had kind of stood by and just let more and more things happen, and they just let it go, like mask mandate here, sexual education stuff that they didn't like there. And then eventually, you find out that, by the way, we're employing teachers who are literally trying to recruit your kids to become domestic terrorists. He was giving them extra credit for attending like Antifa functions. And this guy's on video literally saying that he wanted to take up arms against the government. But this is why this kind of activism, and I've really got to take my hat off to Project Veritas, is so important, and why it has to keep happening. I'm actually now involved in activism in my own school system, and thankfully we managed to catch it earlier, but upon a FOIA request, we found out that the superintendent was literally, trying to get the entire faculty to participate in a book study on white fragility. It seems to me that their strategy is to use white fragility first, because white fragility explains to you that if you disagree with any part of what they're doing, that's just your, basically white fragility. It's not that there's anything wrong with what they're doing. It's that, you have white fragility, and that's what's making you be, basically act defensive when we try to bring up these ridiculous concepts and make you teach them to kids. So, but any case, yeah, this asshole got fired almost immediately thanks to excellent journalism by Project Veritas. They went undercover and they got this guy. I hope that more details about that come out, but one of the things that guy said in the video was they asked him, like, how do you turn your kids into revolutionaries? He's like, I scare the fuck out of them. And the parents are like, that's child abuse. We want charges. We want to, they were looking for people's heads. And the funny thing is that while things didn't get out of control, the school board couldn't handle it anymore, so they didn't have quorum, so they had to end their meeting. For those of you who don't know what quorum is, if you're going to legally be allowed to make decisions as a body, you have to have a certain number of people. The purpose for quorum is just to make sure that, say, 2 people, in a council don't just start passing stuff that they like when there's 4 other members of the council. So basically, members of the school board just left in the middle of the comments because, there was nothing defensible about it. And another thing I wanted to clarify for people who aren't familiar with the way that the rules work for these things, they're not allowed to talk during the course of your public comments, and the purpose of that is actually because that's to ensure that they don't interfere with you and don't interrupt you. So take advantage of this if this stuff is going on in your school system, and stand up to make sure it doesn't. That's really the only solution. You have to take responsibility for this. And don't get discouraged, because fortunately, school board elections are not that hard to win. One of the reasons that this is all happening is that they've been able to take advantage of the fact that most people weren't paying attention to their school board elections. Just like BLM not taking advantage of the sheriff elections, which could actually make some real reforms in their police departments. Easier to burn stuff down and blame the white man, I guess. But anyway, so those are some big losses on the part of Antifa lately. So, if you're still listening to this and you're with Antifa, I'm just going to tell you again what I've been saying all along. I don't support fascism, just like I am an Irishman, and I actually think that Ireland should be unified, but I don't support the IRA because they hurt innocent people, and that's why I don't support you. The funny thing is that this is another major issue here that needs to be dealt with, and I'm talking to the anarcho-communists in Antifa now. What the fuck are you guys doing tolerating having tankies in your organizations? Or, well, groups or whatever the hell you want to lie and claim they are. Why are those people welcome in your black bloc? Because that idiot teacher had a poster of Mao Zedong on his wall, okay? Mao murdered lots of people. And then, for those of you who are tolerating Stalinists in your group, I have to ask you, if you're anarcho-communist, why the fuck would you ever tolerate that? Stalin helped Hitler murder, the Spanish revolutionaries who were actual functional anarcho-syndicalists and communists. How could you ever let those people be part of your group? Ever. At the end of the day, you guys are so crazy about chasing imaginary fascists. Like, I almost never see you actually attacking real fascists. You attack people that you're calling fascists, which is why, you're beating up soccer moms with their, poster board, self-made, posters that are just there to protest against exactly what was happening that you claimed wasn't happening. That this is what's going on. Somebody exposed themselves to kids and women at a Wii Spa. And that's what happened. You guys all claimed it didn't happen. So what the hell does this have to do with fascism either? This is the reason you're losing support. This is why. Period. And then you lie all the time and you're getting exposed for it. And now, somebody in your group is finally gotten arrested. And this is only going to keep happening. You're alienating the left and the right now. Because we're sick of your shit. Stop. You're not helping anybody. Most of you at this point are basically just looking for an excuse to go out and act like a gang. Some of the videos that Drew Hernandez picked up with his hidden camera, like, when you bear maced a mentally ill homeless man, which I have that video too, and you're now getting called out by other members of Antifa for that. Because are you fighting fascism when you torture, mentally ill homeless people? And then the other video that they got put out of them, like they bear maced some guy on a bicycle. And then one of them he sounded like a little high school kid, bullying somebody. Like, I'm going to take your bike. You better not move on me because there'll be 20 people swarming you. Anybody who has to say that, like, it gets some kind of, like, that's just like one. Here's the best way to know that you're a little bitch. If that's how you threaten people, you're going to run your mouth to them and talk shit to them. And then you're going to say, and if you move on me, there'll be 20 people surrounding you. Don't start shit you can't handle yourself. There's nothing gratifying about that. There's nothing tough about that. You guys are getting your asses kicked because at this point, enough people have had enough of you that they're standing up. And I hope they continue to do that. And I say that as somebody on the left. You are fucking incompetent activists. You're ruining the left's reputation. You're destroying any work that was done by people who actually know what they're doing. And for those of you who are anarcho-communists, as I mentioned earlier, acting like this does not make people more interested in abandoning the police and the state. Fuck. The first thing you guys do when you're in trouble is go, call the police! Seriously. You guys are losing. Stop. Reevaluate your activism. You're not helping anybody. This is really, at the end of the day, all about a bunch of you LARPing and pretending to be revolutionaries. I'm glad people are finally seeing how pathetic you all actually are. Thanks for listening.